Welcome to Learning Now TV. It's back with the charity series. It's been a while and we've all been in lockdown, and so we're now recording on Zoom, and I'm really pleased to have a guest with us today who's really managed that transition that we've all had to do in learning and development of moving to digital. I'd like to welcome Andrew New. Andrew's Head of Education and Training Products at St John Ambulance. Now, traditionally a very hands-on, face-to-face approach to things. It'd be really great to hear from you, Andrew. How have you digitized? How have you actually coped in this situation with the pandemic? Welcome to Learning Now TV, Andrew.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, it's been an interesting journey for us as we've taken a very hands-on practical skill and turned it into a digital format. This has been something we've been wanting to do for some time, but as you can imagine, the feedback we regularly get back from our volunteers and the people that we work with, they struggle with the ability to understand how you can deliver a practical skill through a digital format. And so we've found that actually there was very little interest and take-up of such a product. Obviously, things changed quite quickly, and obviously we had to change the way that we interacted with our product and our students to be able to meet a variety of needs from the NHS to schools to power plants, utilities, things like that. The key thing that we did was we first really focused on ensuring that we were all joined up within our organization, that we had all our key stakeholders working together, understanding what we want to achieve, and ensuring that everybody was focused on achieving that goal of a digital approach to first aid. So that could be from our clinical teams to the representatives we work with in terms of the NHS, to the health and safety executive, to our digital teams internally, and our customer services team.
You had a big job, hey? This is a huge thing that you've had to do.
Yes.
So just help our viewers are a lot of corporate L&D, maybe traditional face-to-face, similarly having to do the same sort of journey, but perhaps not from a background of such reticence, really. I guess everyone wanted to do first aid training. We imagine, putting people's bandages on and having time with Resusci Annie and that kind of thing. What did it actually look like for you, Andrew? How did you do this?
So what we first did was we break down what we try to get across to people. So there's life-saving skills that are important, and started to identify what could actually be delivered digitally. So obviously the knowledge aspects are quite easy to get across. We had invested previously in some interactive technology that allowed us to produce modules that allows a person to take themselves through a protocol. So for example, with CPR or the recovery position, we have an interactive module that allows people to take them through the steps. We're even able to assess depth and rate with regards to CPR. And so we had already those assets. And I think what was important was to look at what we had in place already, to curate that around learning journeys to ensure that people were able to use them, and then to identify those gaps and to build those quite quickly to fill them in. Now, obviously, there are some practical elements that we had to do in the classroom, and we would do that. We did that in a socially responsible way and to ensure that that was COVID secure. But it was quite surprising about how much, when you actually delve into what the skill was, you could deliver with the interactive technology that exists in a digital channel.
So just playing back what I heard there, start where you were. You started with what you had. You very clearly said you broke down the skills. So the knowledge transfer, easily done in a digital way, but it headed into that kind of practical. So you still had a practical element. Would you say that was a sort of 80-20 split, or what did that look like?
So for internally, where we were training our own volunteers to go into hospitals and to support the NHS and into the Nightingale hospitals, that reduced time by a third. So actually, we were two-thirds in the classroom, a third online. For our workplace first aiders, so those first aiders who were keeping workplaces such as utilities going, teachers in schools, we were actually able to reduce a lot of that down to two-thirds. So actually there was a third in the classroom, two-thirds online. Now, understanding we are dealing with trained first aiders who already deliver their skills. So this was about refreshing and making sure that they would continue to keep their first aid knowledge up to date. So we were able to achieve that quite quickly with regards to those external first aiders.
And how has the reception of the audience been? You started your story saying that traditionally people didn't want that. Schools, for example, would have wanted their first aid trainers to have been first aid trained in the building, so to speak. Were they receptive to it?
So the actual people who completed the training were extremely receptive to it. We saw registrations on our site, which are our free online site, or go up from just under 1,500 to about 39,000 within 2 months. So that was teachers, first aiders in the workplace, people working in the emergency services, logging on and accessing the first aid courses and materials that we had there. I mean, we had about 12,000 people access our childcare modules, which were very much aimed at schools and early years settings who were providing care functions. We also found that 80% said that they would feel confident responding to a first aid incident following the completion of our digital products. So actually it increased their confidence, and it felt them and they felt ready and able to step in when required. So very much a great response. I think also what was interesting was, so for example, the Department for Education were coming to us and saying that they were going to struggle to keep schools open with regards to being able to still provide first aid coverage. So our provision of online materials directly to schools was welcomed by regulators, the department, from local authorities and from school leaders, because they were able to continue to provide their service, provide a first aid coverage which they may not have planned to have given, but ensured that they still had high quality first aiders in place.
That's just fantastic. I mean, on behalf of the nation, thank you. What I find quite fascinating, and you talk about 12,000 people have accessed your stuff, so that's freely available, that anyone can go and see this at the moment?
So that's 12,000 who've accessed the child and baby modules. That's about 40,000 people who've accessed the whole package, which includes workplace first aid, mental health first aid, a whole gambit of skills. We know that a lot of people were doing DIY over the lockdown period. So we provided first aid skills that were related to DIY injuries as well while people were on lockdown. I mean, that achieved about 17,000 hits in terms of people completing, and which goes part of our way of ensuring that we're building up communities who can look after themselves from a health perspective. So
you've done a really great job. A really great job. But come on, at the end of the day, first aid is about touching people. It's about, putting those bandages on and all the rest of it. What have you done about something like the recovery position? This is the one thing. Surely you can't take that digitally. Surely not.
No, and obviously what we've done is we've provided this as a stopgap. So it was in response to a crisis. And we do still feel that hands-on first aid is the correct way forward. But we have designed and devised a whole series of COVID secure standards that allow us to do something like the recovery position. So at the moment, if you come into one of our classrooms, you will be asked to talk through the steps as you put yourself into the recovery position, or to talk someone else through the steps of the recovery position. You're still being assessed on the actual skills and proving it to a trainer that you know what to do in that situation.
It's just fantastic to blend your learning in such a way that's responsive to the needs of the whole country right now. It is just excellent. And I just think there's no excuses anymore for corporate L&D to say, do you know what, we have to be in the classroom. If St John Ambulance can cope with it, then all of us can cope with it. So I encourage you to take the innovation that Andrew's described today, to go back to your workplaces and see what you can do to make sure that your staff have got what they need in order to continue with their work. And Andrew, thank you so much. It's been lovely to hear your story, and good luck with it. I might even go and check it out. With my girl guiding hat on for first response, we need to see what you're doing over there in St John Ambulance. So thanks very much for talking to us today on Learning Now TV.
Thank you, Michelle.